Hey, this is Thomas from Amplify Agile. We talk about all things on agile and digital transformation. Today's topic is portfolio management, and I'm so proud to have with me Wilkie. Wilkie is technology business management expert at Maryville Consulting. Welcome, Wilkie.
Thanks, Thomas. Happy to be here. Look forward to our discussion.
Cool. Wilkie, before we get into the details on portfolio management, I would like to understand why this is such an important topic. If you could tell us which problem is portfolio management addressing, how is portfolio management going to change with the new Lean Agile way of working?
Yeah, sure, Thomas. So in order to talk about portfolio management, we need to set the stage in that practically the whole world either has gone through or is planning to go through an agile transformation. However, those transformations are more often than not started at the team level to get teams working in agile ways to deliver smaller increments of value more quickly. And what that does is it gets teams working in an agile way, but it causes a disconnect because our governance systems are still legacy. So we are still set up to manage projects effectively, right? With large business cases, long time horizons, stage gate milestones that we have to jump through. And so we have this unevenness between the way we're doing the work and the way that we are overseeing the work.
Yeah. So in an agile lean portfolio management way, where would you go? What would be a good decision making?
Yeah, so the goal of lean portfolio management, we focus on the lean aspect of lean portfolio management, is to ensure that there's alignment, right, between the strategy of the organization and the way that we're executing the work. And in order to accomplish this, we need to have the right processes in place, and they are not the legacy processes, right? So first, I like to focus on what are the outcomes that we're trying to deliver. And once we understand those outcomes, then those who are responsible for each given outcome need the appropriate data in order to make good decisions. And that data really boils down to time, cost, and value. From a time perspective, we try and get those accountable to have roadmaps, right, where they show the work that's coming. From a cost perspective, we look to the technology business management function to help us understand the cost today as well as the anticipated cost in the future. And then from a value perspective, and this is oftentimes the most challenging things for organization, historically we've from a project management perspective, we write these lengthy business cases and determine expected return on investment, but very rarely do organizations go back to determine whether or not we've achieved that return. So from our perspective, what we try and do is develop categories of value that that those accountable for outcomes are aligning their work to. Those categories often include things like scalability, increased efficiency, increased revenue, etc.
Okay. Are you kind of continuously tracking those then?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. In a legacy world, the planning cycle is a periodic one. In some cases it happens quarterly, but more often real decisions are only being made on a yearly basis. Right? But in this new world where the goal is smaller increments of value being delivered more quickly and an ability to pivot as circumstances dictate, as the market demands, we need real-time data in order to make real-time decisions.
Okay, so is this then where also the technology business management can come in and bring in some real-time data? Like on the cost side?
Sorry, go ahead.
Like on the cost side?
Yeah, if you think about the goal of a portfolio product transformation, again, it's to connect that strategy of the org with the way that we're executing on the work. The Maryville product model includes kind of a third pillar to that, which is having the appropriate insights available to make better informed decisions effectively.
Yeah.
And we rely heavily on the technology business management, or TBM org, to provide us the data that helps us glean those insights.
Yeah, so also the taxonomy did involve towards to incorporate those agile terms, isn't it?
Yeah, taxonomy is an interesting concept. So as I said before, I like to focus first on the outcomes, understanding what it is that we're trying to deliver of value to our customers. And the way that is oftentimes described is in terms of a taxonomy, bucketizing, if you will, the various discrete units of value that we are delivering to our customers. So once we have that taxonomy established, kind of the next step in the chain is to ensure that there's accountability for each one of those buckets. And the way I like to think about it is that each of those units of value, those buckets of the taxonomy, can and should be run like a mini business, right? With a single person accountable for effectively the profit and loss of that little business. And in order to do that, we need to be able to provide those accountable with the appropriate data.
So you're achieving the accountability with the relevant data. So, or how does this work in real life? Can you give an example or make it a bit more concrete?
Yeah, sure. So if you think about the old world of projects, success was determined based on progress against a set of milestones, right, in a project plan. In this new world, success is determined in terms of outcomes against a benefit hypothesis. So for a given body of work, we hypothesize that X, Y, and Z is going to be the value we get out of that work. And what we do is we encourage our customers to think about delivery in terms of a minimally viable product, or an MVP. If you focus on an MVP, you don't deliver the Lamborghini right off the bat. Maybe the golf cart is sufficient initially to prove the value, prove the concept, right? Prove the hypothesis. And there are ideally leading indicators that come out of that MVP that tell us whether we're on the right track or not to delivering the value that was hypothesized. And if we're not, that is the point at which we can pivot, reprioritize, reshuffle resources to things that are more promising.
Good, fantastic. Sounds like you did this a couple of times. Can you give an example, like a real life customer example from your experience?
Sure. I've been working with a large healthcare company over the past year and a half. And, as you're probably aware, there's a lot of downward pressure on the budgets of healthcare organizations, largely due to the pandemic. And so with ever decreasing budgets, they are expected to provide ever increasing capabilities, right? And so they want to minimize risk as much as possible. And this legacy world of massive upfront investment in long-term projects that don't deliver value until effectively the end of the project is risky, right? So I've been working with this healthcare provider to go through the steps that I described before, establish a taxonomy, establish accountability for each item in that taxonomy, and to provide them the data that allows them to make better informed decisions. Now, that's from a portfolio governance perspective. From an execution perspective, we are simultaneously enabling teams to take advantage of these new agile ways of working.
Good. Yeah, this is a great example. What would be like your final advice for organizations who want to improve their portfolio management?
I like to start with a focus on the outcomes. What is it that we are trying to achieve? Once you understand those outcomes and you've described them in a way that everybody agrees to, a taxonomy that the enterprise adopts, then you establish the appropriate accountability for each bucket of that taxonomy. And then you give the right person, the right data at the right time to make better informed investment decisions and to maximize value.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Wilkie, for your valuable insights. And thank you, dear participant, for joining us today. Please feel free to like and subscribe and drop us any questions you may have in the comment section. See you in the next one.